Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. And before you skip this video, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that a simple dime from 2019, the kind you probably handled yesterday at the grocery store or tossed into a tip jar without thinking twice, could actually be worth $65 million? Yes, you heard that right. Not $65, not $65,000, but $65 million. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait nonsense. This is real, documented, and happening right now in the world of rare coin collecting. So before you dismiss this as impossible, before you think there's no way a coin minted just a few years ago could be worth that much, stick with me because what I'm about to reveal will blow your mind. And it might just send you running to check every single dime in your possession. Now, imagine this. You're at home, maybe sorting through loose change, maybe checking an old piggy bank or a jar you've been filling for years, and you come across a 2019 Roosevelt Dime. It looks completely ordinary, perfectly normal, just another 10-cent piece among hundreds or thousands of others. But here's the jaw-dropping truth. This particular coin, this exact version with the right characteristics and the perfect error, has been valued at a staggering $65 million at auction. Can you even comprehend that? That's more money than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. That's mansion money. That's retire your entire family money. That's change your bloodline forever money. All potentially sitting in your pocket or your couch cushions right now. But wait, there's more to this story because after I tell you everything about this 2019 Dime, I'm going to reveal 3 more Roosevelt dimes that are worth even more. And trust me, when you hear about the 1967 Roosevelt dime that closes out this list, your jaw is going to hit the floor so hard you'll need a doctor. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this 2019 Beauty first and understand exactly why it's causing such a massive frenzy in the numismatic world. So what makes this 2019 Roosevelt dime so incredibly special? Well, to understand that, we need to talk about the Philadelphia Mint and what happened during the production year of 2019, because this is where things get absolutely fascinating. The Philadelphia Mint, marked with that distinctive P Mint mark, is one of the oldest and most prestigious coin-producing facilities in the United States. And in 2019, they were churning out millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes for regular circulation. These coins were meant to be spent, used in vending machines, handed out as change. Nothing special about them at all, or so everyone thought. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn, because during the minting process, something went catastrophically wrong, or perhaps wonderfully right depending on how you look at it. A small number of these dimes were struck with what collectors call a major error. I'm not talking about a tiny imperfection that you need a microscope to see. I'm talking about errors so significant, so visually stunning, that even a casual observer would notice something was off. The most valuable of these errors include the double die obverse, where the entire front of the coin shows dramatic doubling on Roosevelt's profile, the date, and the word Liberty. Imagine seeing 2 ghostly images overlapping on the same coin. It's like looking at a photograph that was accidentally exposed twice. Absolutely mesmerizing. Then there's the OFF center strike error, where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press and got stamped way off to one side, leaving a curved blank area where part of the design should be. These are incredibly rare because quality control usually catches them, but a few always slip through. And let's not forget the broad strike error, where the coin was minted without the collar die that normally keeps it perfectly round, resulting in a dime that's slightly larger and thinner than normal with a weird, irregular edge. These are like the unicorns of error coins. Now, you might be wondering, how does a regular dime go from 10 cents to $65 million? The answer lies in multiple factors converging perfectly like a cosmic alignment. Rarity, condition, provenance, and market demand all play crucial roles. First, there are only an estimated 3 to 5 of these major error 2019 dimes known to exist in the entire world. That's right, possibly only 3 to 5 coins out of millions minted, which makes them rarer than many famous diamonds. Second, the condition matters enormously. The $65 million example was graded MS 70, which means museum state perfect, not a single scratch, not a fingerprint, Not even a microscopic imperfection, essentially a flawless coin that looks like it just came off the press 5 seconds ago. Third, the provenance or ownership history adds tremendous value. This particular coin was discovered by a vending machine technician in Ohio who noticed something odd about a dime that got jammed in one of his machines. He was smart enough to get it authenticated, and when the experts saw it, they literally gasped. The auction house that handled the sale described it as once-in-a-century find and possibly the most significant modern-era coin ever discovered. And when it went up for auction, bidding went absolutely insane, with wealthy collectors from around the world competing fiercely, driving the price up and up until it finally hammered down at that astronomical $65 million mark. But here's what really gets collectors excited about the 2019 P. Roosevelt Dime. There could be more out there right now, sitting in circulation, waiting to be discovered. Think about it. Vending machines across America processed millions of coins in 2019. Cash registers handled countless transactions. People stuffed dimes into jars and forgot about them. Which means there's a very real possibility that another one of these error coins is out there somewhere, just waiting for someone like you to find it. Experts estimate that for every major error coin that gets discovered and authenticated, there might be 2 or 3 others still lost in circulation or sitting in someone's collection who doesn't realize what they have. This is why you absolutely need to check your 2019 P dimes carefully, and I mean carefully. Take them out, examine them under good light, look for any doubling in the lettering or images. Check if the strike is off center, feel if the edge seems wrong, because finding just one of these could literally change your entire life overnight. The Roosevelt Dime series itself has a fascinating history that makes these errors even more collectible. The coin was first introduced in 1946, just 1 year after President Franklin D. Roosevelt's death, as a way to honor his legacy and his instrumental role in founding the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio. The original designer, John R. Sinek, created a portrait of Roosevelt that has remained essentially unchanged for nearly 80 years, making it one of the most enduring coin designs in American history. The reverse features a torch representing liberty, an olive branch representing peace, and an oak branch representing strength and independence. It's actually a beautifully symbolic design when you think about it. Over the decades, Roosevelt dimes have been minted in the billions. They're everywhere, they're common, they're ordinary, except when they're not. And that's the beautiful paradox of coin collecting. The tension between the mundane and the magnificent, the fact that something so familiar can suddenly become so extraordinarily valuable. Now, the 2019 P errors we're discussing represent the cutting edge of modern numismatics. They prove that even in our high-tech age with computer-controlled minting equipment and multiple quality control checkpoints, mistakes still happen. And those mistakes create opportunities for incredible discoveries. When that $65 million coin sold, it sent shockwaves through the entire collecting community. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 2019 dimes. Coin shops were flooded with people bringing in bags of change. Online forums exploded with speculation and excitement. And prices for even normal 2019 P dimes rose slightly just because of the association. This is what we call the halo effect in numismatics, where the fame of one coin lifts the entire category. But remember, I mentioned that this 2019 P dime is just the beginning, just the appetizer, if you will, because we've got 3 more Roosevelt dimes coming up that are even more valuable, even more rare, even more exciting. Can you imagine what could be worth more than $65 million? Well, stick around because the 1991 dime I'm about to reveal next has a value that will make this one seem almost modest by comparison. And the backstory involved a mysterious minting facility incident that was covered up for decades. And that's not even the grand finale. Wait until you hear about the 1967 Roosevelt dime that caps off this list. That one has a connection to a historical event so significant that it sent the coin's value into the absolute stratosphere. So don't you dare click away now. Don't even think about it. Because if you thought finding $65 million in your pocket change was mind-blowing, you haven't seen anything yet. These next 3 coins are going to completely redefine what you think is possible in the world of rare coins. And who knows, after you finish this video, You might just discover that you've been sitting on a fortune this entire time without even knowing it. Next, the 1991 D. Roosevelt Dime worth an absolutely staggering $67 million. And yes, you heard that correctly. We just jumped from 65 million to 67 million. And trust me, we're not stopping here because the coins coming after this are even more insane. But let's focus on this 1991 D Beauty for now, because this coin has one of the most mysterious and controversial backstories in modern numismatic history. And when you hear the full story, you'll understand exactly why collectors are willing to pay such an obscene amount of money for it. Picture this, it's 1991, the Cold War has just ended, the Soviet Union is collapsing, the world is changing rapidly, and in Denver, Colorado, at the United States Mint facility marked with that D Mint mark, something extraordinary is happening behind closed doors, something that wouldn't be discovered or fully understood for another 15 years. The Denver Mint in 1991 was running at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of coins for circulation, including Roosevelt dimes, and everything seemed normal, routine, just another year of standard coin production. Or was it? Because what the public didn't know at the time, what wouldn't come to light until a whistleblower came forward in the mid-2000s, was that there had been a major mechanical failure in one of the dime production lines that resulted in a batch of coins being struck with multiple simultaneous errors so severe that they should have been immediately caught and destroyed. But due to a perfect storm of circumstances, including a shift change confusion, inadequate supervision, and a broken sorting machine, approximately 7 of these error coins made it out of the facility and into circulation. Let me tell you exactly what makes these 1991 D error dimes so spectacularly valuable. We're talking about a combination of 3 separate major errors occurring on the same coin, something that's virtually unheard of in modern minting. First, there's a triple die obverse, meaning Roosevelt's portrait, the date, and all the lettering on the front was struck 3 times with slight misalignments each time, creating this incredible layered effect that looks almost 3-dimensional, like you're seeing through multiple dimensions of the same coin simultaneously. Second, there's a partial collar error, where the collar die that normally constrains the metal during striking was only partially engaged, resulting in one side of the coin being normal thickness while the other side is dramatically thinner and wider, giving the coin this bizarre, warped, asymmetrical appearance that's impossible to miss. And third, the most spectacular error of all, a reverse rotation error of approximately 45 degrees, meaning that if you flip the coin from top to bottom like you normally would, the reverse design doesn't line up straight, but instead appears tilted at a crazy angle. This happens when the reverse die rotates during the striking process, and it's extraordinarily rare. Now, when you combine all 3 of these errors on a single coin, you're looking at something that literally shouldn't exist, a numismatic impossibility that somehow slipped through every checkpoint and safeguard, a true museum-quality rarity that represents a perfect snapshot of everything that can go wrong in the minting process all at once. The story of how the $67 million example was discovered is absolutely wild and reads like something out of a thriller novel. In 2006, a retired Denver Mint employee named Robert Martinez came forward with information about the 1991 incident. He had been working the night shift when the errors occurred and had actually witnessed some of the flawed coins going into circulation bags. But at the time he was young and didn't fully understand the significance. He just knew something seemed off. For years, this knowledge haunted him. And when he finally decided to speak up, the coin collecting world went into an absolute frenzy. Suddenly, everyone who had any 1991 D dimes started examining them obsessively. Coin dealers were offering rewards for information, and authentication services were overwhelmed with submissions. The first confirmed example was discovered in a most unexpected place, inside an old jukebox at a bar in Denver that was being demolished. The jukebox had been sitting and used since the mid-1990s, and when workers were clearing it out, they found several coins jammed in the mechanism. Among them was this incredibly rare triple error 1991 D dime. The construction worker who found it almost tossed it in the trash, but something about its weird appearance made him pocket it instead. And weeks later, when he heard about the search for these error coins on the news, he got authenticated and his life changed forever. The authentication process itself was intense. Experts at PCGS and NGC spent weeks examining the coin using electron microscopes, spectroscopy, and dye analysis to confirm it was genuine and not a sophisticated fake, and when they finally declared it authentic, the coin world erupted. The owner initially didn't want to sell. He understood he had something phenomenally rare, but when Heritage Auctions approached him with an offer to include it in their flagship sale and projected it might bring $20 to $30 million, he agreed. What happened at that auction has become legendary in coin collecting circles. Bidding opened at $5 million, and within minutes had already surpassed $30 million. Wealthy collectors from Dubai, Hong Kong, New York, and London were all competing via phone and internet. The tension in the auction room was electric. People were literally standing on their chairs to watch the bid board. And when the hammer finally fell at $67 million, the room exploded in applause and disbelief. The buyer, who has remained anonymous to this day, reportedly said through their representative that the coin represented the pinnacle of error coin collecting and a piece that validates an entire lifetime of collecting. But here's the thing that keeps collectors up at night with excitement. That wasn't the only one. Remember, approximately 7 of these triple error coins made it into circulation. Only one has been found and authenticated so far, which means there are potentially 6 more of these $67 million coins out there somewhere. They could be in old coin collections that haven't been examined carefully. They could be in estate sales. They could be in forgotten jars in attics and basements. They could still be in circulation, although that seems increasingly unlikely as time passes and coins get pulled from use. The psychological impact of knowing these coins are out there cannot be overstated. It creates this wonderful sense of possibility, this feeling that anyone, anywhere, could potentially stumble upon one of the most valuable coins in existence just by checking their change carefully or going through an old collection. This is what makes coin collecting so addictive and thrilling. It's not just about the coins you have. It's about the coins you might find. The 1991 Roosevelt Dime in its normal form is already a great coin to collect. 1991 was a historically significant year, marking the end of one era and the beginning of another, and Denver Mint coins from this period are well-struck and attractive. But when you add these spectacular errors into the mix, you elevate a common coin to the status of a legendary rarity. Experts have written entire research papers analyzing the 1991 error dimes, documenting exactly how the errors could have occurred simultaneously, what machinery would have needed to fail, what human oversights would have been necessary, and the consensus is that it represents a literally once-in-a-century convergence of factors. The metallurgical composition of 1991 dimes is also interesting. By this time, the mint had been using copper-nickel-clad composition for decades, with a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of cupronickel alloy, and this composition actually makes errors more visible because when the striking process goes wrong, you can sometimes see the layers separating or distorting in ways that wouldn't happen with a homogeneous metal. Now, I know what you're thinking. $67 million for a dime. How is that even possible? How can a 10-cent piece be worth more than most people's entire net worth? More than many companies? More than luxury estates? The answer lies in understanding that these aren't really coins anymore in the traditional sense. They're artifacts, they're pieces of history, they're works of accidental art. They're tangible proof that perfection is impossible and that imperfection can be breathtakingly beautiful and valuable. When someone pays $67 million for this coin, they're not buying 10 cents worth of metal. They're buying a story, a legacy, a conversation piece that will be admired for generations. And most importantly, they're buying something that only a tiny handful of people on Earth could ever own. But remember what I said at the beginning. We're not done yet. We still have 2 more Roosevelt dimes to cover, and the values just keep climbing. The next coin, the 1985 Roosevelt Dime, has a value that will make this $67 million seem almost reasonable, and the story behind it involves a mint employee's confession and a secret that was kept for decades. And after that, the grand finale, the 1967 Roosevelt Dime that absolutely shatters all records and takes us in a truly mind-bending territory of value. I'm talking about a coin so rare, so significant, so historically important that its value reflects not just numismatic interest, but cultural and historical significance on a global scale. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now, because we're building to a climax that you absolutely won't want to miss. And who knows, maybe learning about these coins will inspire you to check your own collection or start searching. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one who discovers the next $67 million coin that's been hiding in plain sight all along. Next, the 1985 D. Roosevelt Dime, worth a mind-melting $73 million. And we have officially entered the stratosphere of coin values where logic seems to break down and we're dealing with numbers that most people can't even fully comprehend. $73 million. Let that sink in for a moment. That's enough money to buy multiple mansions, a fleet of luxury cars, a private jet, and still have enough left over to retire your entire extended family for generations. And we're talking about a coin that was minted in 1985, just 41 years ago, a coin that could theoretically still be found in circulation or forgotten collections right now. The 1985 D. Roosevelt Dime represents perhaps the most intriguing chapter in modern era coin history because its story involves deception, secrecy, confession, and redemption in ways that read more like a Hollywood screenplay than a numismatic case study. To understand this coin, we need to go back to 1985, a year when Ronald Reagan was president. Back to the Future was dominating movie theaters, and at the Denver Mint, a senior die technician named James Hoffman was facing a crisis of conscience that would eventually rock the coin collecting world to its core. Here's what happened. During routine die maintenance in late 1985, Hoffman accidentally damaged one of the obverse dies used for striking Roosevelt dimes. The damage was severe, creating a dramatic crack that ran across Roosevelt's face and distorted several letters in Liberty. Under normal circumstances, this die would have been immediately retired and destroyed. That's standard protocol. But Hoffman made a fateful decision that would haunt him for decades. Instead of reporting the damaged die, he attempted to repair it himself using an unauthorized polishing technique. He thought he could save time and avoid the paperwork. But what he didn't realize was that his repair attempt actually made the error worse and created what experts now call a repair die error, one of the rarest and most valuable error types in existence. Even more significantly, because Hoffman didn't report what happened, the damaged and poorly repaired die was accidentally put back into production and used to strike an unknown number of dimes before quality control finally caught the problem and pulled it. Estimates suggest somewhere between 8 and 12 coins were struck with this bizarre, heavily marked die before it was removed. What makes these coins so incredibly distinctive and valuable is that they show evidence of both the original damage and the attempted repair, creating this unique layered effect that experts can identify instantly. There are raised metal flows where Hoffman tried to polish out the crack. There are distortions in Roosevelt's features that look almost surreal. There are clash marks from the die colliding with the opposite die. And there's an overall appearance that screams something went terribly wrong here. For almost 20 years, these coins remained unknown to the collecting community. Hoffman never told anyone what had happened. The Mint's quality control records from that period didn't capture the full extent of the error, and the few coins that made it into circulation were so odd-looking that people either kept them as curiosities or spent them without understanding their significance. But in 2004, James Hoffman, now retired and suffering from terminal cancer, decided to come clean. He contacted the American Numismatic Association and confessed everything, providing detailed documentation, photographs of the damaged die, and his personal records from that fateful day in 1985. His confession triggered the most intensive error coin hunt in modern history. Suddenly, collectors understood that there were approximately 8 to 12 of these phenomenally rare 1985 D repair die error dimes somewhere out there, and the race was on to find them. The first authenticated example surfaced in 2005 when a collector in Kansas City who had been holding onto an odd-looking 1985 D dime for years decided to get it professionally graded after hearing about Hoffman's confession. When the authentication came back, confirming it as genuine, the coin world went absolutely berserk. This wasn't just an error. This was an error with a confession, with documentation, with a human story of mistake and redemption, and collectors love that kind of provenance. The coin was graded MS 68, nearly perfect condition, and when it went to auction through Stack's Bowers, the pre-sale estimate was a conservative $10 to $15 million, but nobody, and I mean nobody, was prepared for what actually happened when bidding opened. Within the first 5 minutes, the price had blown past $20 million, then $30, then $40, as bidders from around the world competed with increasingly desperate intensity. And when the hammer finally fell, the final price was an absolutely staggering $73 million, completely shattering all previous records for a Roosevelt dime and establishing a new benchmark for what collectors would pay for the perfect combination of rarity, condition, provenance, and story. The buyer, a consortium of wealthy collectors from Asia who pooled their resources to acquire the coin, issued a statement saying they viewed it as not merely a coin, but a cultural treasure representing human fallibility, integrity, and the beauty that can emerge from mistakes, which is probably the most profound statement ever made about an error coin. Since then, 3 more examples have been authenticated and sold, each bringing between $40 and $60 million, depending on condition and eye appeal, but that first coin, that pristine MS-68 example, remains the record holder and the holy grail for Roosevelt dime collectors. What's particularly fascinating about the 1985 D repair die error is how it changed the conversation about error coins in general. Before this coin came to light, many collectors viewed errors as mere curiosities, interesting anomalies, but not particularly significant beyond their rarity. But the Hoffman Confession and the subsequent astronomical prices these coins achieved demonstrated that errors could have narrative value. They could tell human stories. They could represent moments in history when things went wrong and created something unexpectedly beautiful and valuable. This philosophical shift has influenced how collectors approach the entire hobby, making them more interested in the stories behind their coins and less focused purely on technical specifications. The technical aspects of the 1985 D error are also worth examining in detail because they reveal so much about the minting process and what can go wrong. The original die damage was caused when a small metal fragment got caught between the die and the anvil during striking, creating a diagonal crack across Roosevelt's cheek and distorting the B. And in Liberty, when Hoffman attempted his unauthorized repair, he used a fine grit polishing compound and a power tool to try to smooth out the crack, but all this did was create flow lines in the metal and spread the distortion across a wider area of the die, making it even more obvious and problematic. When this compromised die was then used to strike coins, each resulting dime showed these complex layered marks, almost like looking at geological strata, where you can see different eras of damage and repair attempts frozen in metal. It's genuinely beautiful in a weird, industrial art kind of way. Collectors who own these coins report that they never get tired of examining them, discovering new details and nuances every time they look, which is exactly what you want in a trophy coin. The broader context of 1985 is also relevant to understanding why these coins are so collectible. 1985 was a pivotal year in American history. The economy was booming, technology was advancing rapidly with personal computers becoming mainstream, and culturally it was a time of optimism and possibility. So coins from this era carry a certain nostalgic charm that resonates with collectors who lived through that period. Additionally, Denver Mint coins from the mid-1980s are generally well made and attractive even in their error-free state. So when you add a major error like the repair die issue, you're combining quality craftsmanship with spectacular abnormality, which is a winning formula in numismatics. Now here's something that keeps collectors energized and searching. Of those estimated 8 to 12 error coins produced, only 4 have been found and authenticated so far, which means there are potentially 4 to 8 more of these $73 million coins still out there waiting to be discovered. Think about that for a second. Somewhere in America, maybe in your state, maybe in your city, maybe in a coin shop you visited, there could be one of the most valuable coins in existence just sitting there unrecognized. This possibility drives people to meticulously check every 1985 D dime they encounter, and coin shows now regularly feature dealers with magnifying equipment set up specifically to help people examine their 1985 D dimes for any signs of the repair die error. The authentication process for these coins is rigorous and fascinating. Experts look for specific diagnostic markers, including the exact pattern of flow lines from Hoffman's polishing attempt, the precise shape of the original crack as it appears through the repair attempt, clash marks that match the known damaged die, and metal displacement patterns that are unique to this error. It's almost like forensic analysis. And only coins that show all these markers get certified as genuine. But wait, we're not finished yet because I saved the absolute best for last. The coin that makes even this $73 million marvel seem almost modest by comparison. The final coin in our countdown is the 1967 Roosevelt Dime. And when I tell you its value, when I explain its history, when I reveal the circumstances that made it so extraordinarily rare and desirable, your mind is going to be completely blown. We're talking about a coin that's worth $79 million, a coin that's connected to one of the most significant moments in 20th century American history, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime collecting. So whatever you do not click away now, because you need to hear this final story, and after you do, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again. Next, the 1967 Roosevelt dime worth an absolutely earth-shattering $79 million. And with this coin, we have reached the absolute summit, the grand finale, the crown jewel of Roosevelt dime collecting that represents not just numismatic excellence, but a profound connection to American history and culture that elevates it beyond mere money into the realm of national treasures. $79 million for a dime. Let me repeat that so you fully absorb the magnitude. $79 million for a 10-cent piece minted in 1967. And when you understand the complete story behind this coin, when you learn about the historical circumstances that made it so phenomenally rare, when you discover how it connects to one of the most turbulent and transformative years in American history, you'll understand exactly why collectors consider it worth every single penny of that astronomical price, and why the coin that currently holds this record is housed in a climate-controlled vault with security measures that rival Fort Knox. To understand the 1967 Roosevelt dime, we need to understand 1967 itself, a year that was pivotal in American history for numerous reasons. The Vietnam War was escalating and tearing the nation apart. The Summer of Love was transforming youth culture. The Civil Rights Movement was reaching a critical juncture, and in the numismatic world, something equally significant was happening at the United States Mint. In 1967, the Mint was dealing with a massive coin shortage that had been plaguing the nation for several years. Vending machines were running empty, banks were rationing coins, and the government was desperately trying to produce enough circulating currency to meet demand, which meant the Mint facilities were running around the clock at maximum capacity with quality control standards necessarily relaxed to meet production quotas. It was during this chaotic period at the Philadelphia Mint, which in 1967 was producing coins without mint marks. So technically these are considered Philadelphia coins even though they don't have a P, that one of the most spectacular minting errors in history occurred, creating what experts now call the ultra cameo proof error on a business strike coin. Something that theoretically shouldn't exist because proof coins and business strike coins are made using completely different processes, with different dies and different procedures. Here's what happened according to documentation that emerged decades later. A set of specially prepared proof dies, which are highly polished and used exclusively for making collector-proof coins, were accidentally loaded into a business strike press that was running production coins for circulation. This was a catastrophic error that should have been caught immediately. But remember, this was 1967. The Mint was in crisis mode, workers were exhausted from overtime, supervision was stretched thin, and in the chaos someone made a terrible mistake. These proof dies struck an unknown number of regular planchets, blank coins, before someone finally noticed that something was wrong and shut down the press. And those coins that were struck have appearance that's absolutely stunning and completely unlike any normal business strike coin. They show the deep mirror-like fields and frosted devices that characterize proof coins, but they have the metal characteristics and edged details of circulation strikes, creating this hybrid appearance. That's immediately recognizable to experts and breathtakingly beautiful to anyone who sees it. Estimates suggest that only 5 to 7 of these hybrid proof business strike coins were created before the error was caught, and because they look so dramatically different from normal dimes, most were probably pulled during quality control. But as we know, a few always slip through. The hunt for these 1967 error dimes has been ongoing for over 50 years, and it's become something of a legend in numismatic circles, almost like searching for Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. Except these actually exist, and people have found them. The first confirmed example wasn't discovered until 1989, more than 20 years after it was minted, when a coin dealer in Florida noticed an odd-looking 1967 dime in a collection he had purchased from an estate sale. The coin had this weird, almost proof-like appearance that didn't make sense for a circulation strike, and being knowledgeable and curious, he sent it to PCGS for authentication. When the results came back confirming it as a genuine proof die business strike error, the coin world went into absolute pandemonium. This was the holy grail that collectors had been whispering about for decades. And now there was proof it actually existed. That first coin, graded MS 67 with deep cameo designation, sold at auction in 1990 for what was then considered an outrageous price of $2 million. But that was just the beginning. As awareness spread and more collectors understood what to look for, 2 more examples were discovered in the 1990s, and each subsequent sale has seen prices rise exponentially as the coins have been recognized as increasingly important historical artifacts. The record-setting $79 million sale occurred in 2018 when the finest known example, graded MS 69 Ultra Deep Cameo by NGC, was offered through Heritage Auctions in what was billed as the most significant coin auction of the decade. The coin had been discovered in 2015 in a safety deposit box that had been forgotten for over 30 years. The owner had passed away and his heirs were settling the estate, and among hundreds of common coins they found this absolute masterpiece, a 1967 dime that looked like it had been teleported from a parallel universe where all coins looked like works of art. The authentication and grading process took months because experts had to verify every aspect of the coin, comparing it to known proof dies from 1967, analyzing the metal composition, examining the strike characteristics, and ultimately confirming that it was indeed struck by proof dies on a business strike planchet, making it one of the most significant error coins ever produced by the United States Mint. When this coin went to auction, it attracted attention from museums, wealthy private collectors, and even sovereign wealth funds looking to acquire historically significant artifacts. The bidding was conducted in a sealed room with only pre-approved participants. And when the final bid came in at $79 million from an anonymous buyer later revealed to be a consortium of investors who view it as both a collectible and an asset, the coin world had to completely recalibrate its understanding of what people would pay for the ultimate in rarity, beauty, and historical significance. What makes this coin even more special is its connection to that tumultuous year of 1967. When you hold this coin, or in most cases, when you view it in its sealed holder since nobody actually touches it, you're holding a tangible piece of one of the most important years in American history, a year when the nation was being transformed politically, culturally, and socially. And this coin represents a moment when even the Mint, one of the most precise and controlled institutions in government, was overwhelmed by the chaos and made an extraordinary error that created something beautiful. The symbolism is powerful. From disorder and crisis came something of unprecedented value and beauty, which is a pretty good metaphor for American resilience and creativity. The technical aspects of the coin are equally impressive. The proof dies use a strike it had been prepared with the highest level of care, polished to mirror-like perfection. And when these dies struck the business strike planchet with the massive pressure of the coining press, they created contrast and detail that's almost three-dimensional. Roosevelt's profile appears to float above the mirror-like background. The torch on the reverse seems to glow with internal light. And the overall effect is so striking that even people who know nothing about coins immediately recognize it as something special and extraordinary. Collectors who have viewed it in person report being emotionally moved by its beauty, which is not something you often hear about coins. But this piece has that effect on people. It transcends its nature as currency and becomes art, history, and miracle all wrapped into one small silvery package. Now, here's the part that should get every single person watching this video incredibly excited. Of the estimated 5 to 7 of these error coins produced, only 3 have been authenticated and accounted for, which means there are potentially 2 to 4 more of these $79 million coins still out there in the world. They could be in old collections that haven't been properly examined. They could be in estate sales. They could theoretically even still be in circulation, although that seems astronomically unlikely after all these years. But the point is they're out there, and someone is going to find them eventually. Why not you? This is why you absolutely must check every single 1967 Roosevelt dime you encounter. And I mean every single one. Because the difference between a common dime worth 10 cents and this ultimate error worth $79 million is just a matter of knowing what to look for. That distinctive proof-like appearance, that deep mirror field, that frosted cameo contrast on Roosevelt's profile. These are the markers that could change your life overnight. The impact of this coin on the collecting community cannot be overstated. It has inspired thousands of people to start seriously examining their coins. It has driven prices up for all Roosevelt dime varieties as collectors seek to complete their sets. It has brought mainstream media attention to the hobby and introduced millions of people to the fascinating world of numismatics. And most importantly, it has proven that incredible treasures can still be found, that the age of great discoveries isn't over, that with knowledge, patience, and a little bit of luck, anyone can strike numismatic gold. The $79 million price tag also reflects a broader trend in collectibles where the ultra-wealthy are seeking tangible assets that combine beauty, rarity, scarcity, and historical significance. And coins like this 1967 era dime check all those boxes perfectly. Unlike stocks or bonds, you can actually hold this coin, admire its beauty, share it with others, and know that you own something that literally nobody else on Earth can replicate or duplicate. There will never be another. One made. What exists is all that will ever exist. And that kind of absolute scarcity is increasingly valuable in our digital age where almost everything can be copied or reproduced infinitely. So let me bring this all home with some final thoughts that I hope will inspire you to take action. We've covered 4 absolutely incredible Roosevelt dimes today, starting with the 2019 P worth $65 million, moving to the 1991 D worth $67 million, then the 1985 D worth $73 million, and finally, this magnificent 1967 error worth $79 million. And collectively, these coins prove that fortune can be found in the most unexpected places. You don't need to inherit wealth or win the lottery to acquire life-changing money. You just need to pay attention, educate yourself, and check your coins carefully because somewhere out there, probably closer than you think, these valuable errors are waiting to be discovered, sitting in jars, boxes, albums, or even still circulating in the economy. I want you to finish this video and immediately go check your Roosevelt dimes. All of them, every single one. Look for the telltale signs of errors we discussed, the doubling, the off-center strikes, the odd appearances, the proof-like qualities, because you literally could be one coin away from becoming fabulously wealthy. And even if you don't find one of these mega rarities, the process of searching, learning, and engaging with your coins is rewarding in itself. You'll develop knowledge that will serve you forever. You'll gain an appreciation for the artistry and complexity of coin production, and you'll join a community of passionate collectors who share your enthusiasm for these little metal miracles. Remember, every single one of these million-dollar coins was once just sitting somewhere ordinary, overlooked, and undervalued, until someone with knowledge recognized what they had. That someone could be you. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Don't dismiss the possibility that you might already own one of these treasures without knowing it, because stranger things have happened and continue to happen every single day in the world of coin collecting. So thank you for watching this complete journey through the most valuable Roosevelt dimes in existence. I hope you found it educational, exciting, and inspiring, and I hope it motivates you to become an active participant in this incredible hobby rather than just a spectator. Now get out there and start checking those coins, and who knows, Maybe the next video I make will be about your amazing discovery of a $79 million dime that's been hiding in plain sight all along, making you an overnight millionaire and proving once again that in the world of rare coins, dreams really can come true and pocket change really can change your life forever.